Hey y'all, this is my first time actually posting a video. I've watched I don't know how many different videos on here. I watched the two videos, 48 ways that men and women each experience sexism. That's bad for everyone. And I gotta say, they're both completely accurate. Uh, Women experience it's more obvious with women in a lot of ways. It has to do with their ability to control their own lives is the main point. And I wasn't always a male feminist, so to speak, but I have definitely learned that sexism not only is a thing, but it needs to change. So, and I'm kind of wandering around, so we'll see a little bit of this going on. Um, but ladies, let me tell you something. It really is not fair what you've been put through over the course of history. The patriarchy, so to speak, quote unquote, kind of without the finger quotes. Um, yeah, social norms do not need to stay put. For example, women should not have to necessarily be the primary caregivers for children, and should be able to and should actually step up and take in a more active role in that particular facet of life. Those people who do have children. I'm not an example of such, but I hope to at some point. And I would love to be the kind of, loving, attentive father to any children I may have. Just hasn't been in the cards for me yet. Anyway, another social norm is paying women less for the same job. There's the bit about whether or not one candidate is a better fit for the job versus another, and sometimes the better candidate would be the male versus female. But if you look strictly at two people's skill sets, they're exactly comparable. Let's say you have another job, you've got a job opening, and it turns out that you might actually be better suited to hire two. You've got two exactly comparable individuals. One happens to be male, one happens to be female. They've got the same skill sets. They've got excellent references. There's no reason why it should be any less. And yet, I would estimate probably at least 8 times out of 10, if not 9, the man's going to be paid more. They'll be paid what they're actually worth, and the woman would be paid. I think the last figure I saw was about 80% on the upside, um, and that's on a good day. Or the woman earns what they're actually worth, and the man gets bumped up in comparison. I've actually heard of both cases of that. Both of them suck, because they're not at all fair, at all. So, and as far as household duties are concerned, I would turn the phone around and show you what my apartment looks like, but no, I'll pass on that. But it should behoove men to be able to take care of their space. If you're living in common with a woman, it's not just her job to do the dishes, for example. It's not just her job to take care of the quote-unquote domestic bits. And on the flip side, it's not just the man's job to take care of all things mechanical. Don't leave me alone with a toolbox to work on the car, because it will sit there and I will do very little with it, because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm very much more of the, if I'm going to do anything, I'm more of the, more inclined to actually do a lot of the, you know, dishes, for example, which I did those earlier. And I actually do clean a lot better than I do anything else. So, and I would much rather, pay somebody to do, you know, mechanical fixing type work. I mean, on occasional, if it's something simple, I'll go ahead and do it. If I've got the tools, or if, I've got a few minutes to spare or get bored. Otherwise, I'm not the fixer. So, I don't exactly fit in that type of social norm either. Um, I love music. I'm a musician. I like to sing. I like to listen to music. I've got a very good ear for it. I don't. Not so great on instruments, but doesn't mean I don't enjoy good instrumentation. I've been described as, had a friend describe to me at one point, talking about various musical groups and singers, that I talk about music the way that a lot of her other friends, or that this woman's other friends, male friends, would talk about sports teams. So that's, I mean, we're guys, we obsess about those kind of things. And I'm also a comic book type game nerd, anime, go fairy tale. No. Getting a little off track. The anyway, I guess the point I wanted to make with this video is that there are things that men can do to help the situation, to balance things out. When if you've got a chain, and each chain is a person, if you've got a weak link, rather than cutting the link in order to make the chain stronger, all that does is weaken it further. Because then you've got another weak link and you cut that out. With each cut, it makes the chain weaker. Instead, if you work and support the weakest link, then the chain as a whole becomes stronger rather than weaker. It's like when you break a bone, the spot at which you break the bone becomes the strongest part. If it heals properly, will become the strongest part of that bone, because your body reinforces it to make sure it doesn't happen again. And our bodies do things very naturally that we as a species tend to fight because we think we know better, when a lot of times we don't. So let's try to take things the more natural direction and build each other up. Gender, race, sexual preference, gender identity, and try to build each other up rather than tear each other down, us, trying to fit each person into this little box. You try to fit someone into a box, they cease to be human. At that point, they become the box. And I mean, like a lot of people, I compartmentalize constantly every little thing, and I separate things into categories based on what I think is convenient for me. And a lot of times I find out that I was off in my judgment because I didn't get all the facts right. I didn't get enough facts to make that call. And so I've learned to not do that with people in particular, because you never know what somebody's capable until you actually hear or see them do it. So I'm going to leave off with that. kind of rambled a little bit. This was mostly a practice session to see how things go. And I apologize for the condition of my hair. Just kidding. Um, but yeah, let's do better. I know we can do it.